one more time and going to take a short break. If everyone can stay muted during this time, what we're going to do is publish to YouTube like we did on the board meeting, and that way people can watch it via YouTube. If you're logged in right now, just stay here. But I do want to give people time to log into YouTube to watch this. So I'm sorry it's taken so long to get started. I did not realize we were limited to 100 users. We're ready to go as soon as we get this thing published on YouTube, and it is, I'm told it is working. So Ryan, how are they logging in?
Just go to the board, our website, and there is live board meeting.
Okay, so if somebody is asking you, I know they can't hear me on this, but if someone is asking you or texting you how to access it, just they go open the internet to our homepage, and the same place you clicked for the live board meeting, that is now this meeting. So you can pass that on to them, and we'll give them just a couple minutes here. So beardsleyschool.org, up at the top, live board meeting. That's the feed to this this meeting. Sorry about that. About a couple more minutes and we'll get started. Thanks.
Woohoo!
Hi.
Yeah, I can't find this one.
Very good. We're going to kick it off here. Thanks for your patience. There's, I think, one or two people that are unmuted. If you could make sure your computer screen is muted, that'd be great. I originally planned for this PowerPoint to be fairly short, probably 30, 45 minutes. And then there's some training after the meeting. I think just recently we've added some slides, and it might be a little bit longer than that. We will take breaks during the meeting so that if you need to use the restroom or something, there should be time for that. And what we'll do is we'll look at our chat questions during that time. And if Mr. Miller or I can answer any of the questions, we'll do so. Just to let you know that things are continually changing. So we might not have an answer for some of your questions, but we will look at those and try to get back to you via email when we do have an answer. So to start with, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Miller. And again, thank you for participating today.
Welcome back, Beardsley. Thank you very much for your patience as we kick off the Zoom this morning. It's really, really great to have everybody back. Even if it's under conditions that none of us could have imagined just a few short months ago, back to March there. I'd like to start by thanking everyone for all of the efforts that were put forth on behalf of our students last month when we were abruptly forced to shut down with very, very little prior notice the night before, basically. What a challenging time it's been for the entire Beardsley family. I am sincerely appreciative of all that was done to make the best of a very, very difficult situation. Our teachers, administrators, and classified staff in typical Beardsley fashion stepped up time and again and worked tirelessly to make sure our families had daily food available via our nutrition stops. Our teachers also made every effort to stay in daily contact with their student base as we move forward under very arduous conditions. They navigated truly uncharted waters last March, and I'm deeply thankful for that to everybody on the Beardsley staff. Our technology, nutrition, and MOT departments went way beyond the call of duty last March and through the summer, making sure that we had a supply of Chromebooks, for example, prepared meals for pickup in Ann's department through June 30th, and purchased protective equipment in anticipation of starting under a hybrid model at that time. I cannot thank all of them enough. As many of you have probably heard, about a week ago, Governor Gavin Newsom created a watch list for the state of California. In a nutshell, Reader's Digest version. If a county is on the watch list, schools in that county must operate on a remote learning basis only. Kern County is now on the watch list, as you probably heard. To get off the list, a county must go 14 days in a row showing improvement on 3 matrices. As a result of the county being on the governor's watch list, schools in Kern County are all planning to open the year on a remote or distance learning basis in the fall, coming up here in a couple weeks. It's with a heavy heart that I will make this recommendation to the Board of Trustees based on Kern County status, again on the watch list, to open on a distance learning model at the next meeting on Thursday. I will also ask for authorization to move between the different models when it is safe to do so and when it is legal. In other words, when we're off the watch list. The other 2 models that are the hybrid model and the traditional school model or regular school. I refer to distance learning as phase 1. The hybrid model with a distance learning option for parents as phase 2, the one we hope to move into fairly quickly, and the traditional model as phase 3 or regular school. At the last trustees meeting, I went through the details of the hybrid model. The district has a full plan, complete with complete protocol for the hybrid model, and a lot of work went into the development of this model over the summer for our school district, including the purchase of a wide range of protective equipment for staff to meet the recommendations of national, state, and local health professionals. To be clear, the district stands ready to bring its kids back to school under this model when it's legally permissible to do so, and we judge it as safe for our students and staff. No one is unclear what the best learning model is for the district students, which is here at our school sites with their teachers. But for now, we must do our absolute best to provide our students with the best educational program we possibly can under a distance learning model only to start the year. It is incumbent upon all of us to give it 100%, while also realizing that this is all new and a time for learning for all of us. This is probably a good segue into the main purpose of this Zoom meeting this morning. Our focus today will be on the distance learning model because that's what we're starting with. And we won't spend a ton of time on the hybrid model today. We will revisit the hybrid model when we are closer to being able to move to it, hopefully in a very short period of time here. So with that, I want to turn it over to our great Assistant Superintendent, Mr. Kevin Williams, who has tirelessly worked the entire summer. I don't think he's been out of here this July a whole lot. So he's been preparing for all of us through the summer, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Williams now.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, hopefully, and see if we can get this started. Oh, it's behind that little bit. Whoops. Ryan, did we just do this from here?
Just do present.
Just trying to hit present. Very good. So our presentation today is on opening for 2020, 2021 in a distance learning model. Questions, we've talked about this before. If you have questions, please enter them into the chat and we'll try to answer those during our breaks. The three models, Mr. Miller just already talked about this. We have our traditional model with our students here 5 days a week in a normal class. A hybrid model is a percentage of the students attending school on a rotating shortened day schedule twice a week. And our distance learning, which is what we are planning to open with this next month. So these are some of the things that Governor Newsom required on reopening the schools. So to have safe in-person school-based on local health data can happen only when the county is off the monitoring list for 14 days. Some of you may know that we just went on the monitoring list last few days. So I think, and the numbers for our positive cases has gone upward instead of downward. So we don't look to come off that list anytime soon. If we don't meet the requirement, we have to open distance learning. If we open with any students at school, items 2 through 4 are mandatory. And that is all staff must wear a mask. All students 3rd grade and above must wear a face mask. Younger students are highly encouraged to wear the mask. And physical distancing must be in place where we maintain 6 feet of separation between staff and students. Symptom checks prior to starting school, hand washing stations, and so forth. We also have to have a separate quarantine room in place on each campus where students, if they have symptoms of the COVID-19, they can go into a separate room away from everyone except one monitor. Right now, I know a lot of you had asked questions earlier about testing staff regularly. There's no answer on that, so you don't need to type that one in, save your fingers. Upon the students returning to school, they still have, since we are not returning, no one's set some requirements on that yet. Contact tracing will be in place. But overall, we want to make sure that we have a rigorous curriculum that you can provide our students. All students will have access to devices. They will have live interaction with you guys on a daily basis and plan for your students to have interaction with each other as well. Also counts as synchronous learning. We're going to give them challenging assignments, and we're going to have some adopted lessons for our EL teachers and special education students that those departments are planning as well. So some of the safety measures that we have put into place or are still planning to put into place prior to students coming back on campus. The first safety measure, obvious, we're opening school in a distance learning model. So no students will be on campus. All staff, when you come to campus, should wear masks outside your classroom, or if you have visitors inside your classroom. So on these planning days, if you decide to meet at school and there's 2 or 3 of you in the class, the law basically says even if you're across the room from each other, you should be wearing masks. Okay. Health checks upon arrival. We will start those when school starts. Right now, if you don't feel well, please stay home. Daily sanitation with COVID killing CDC approved disinfectants. MOT has bought the foggers you've probably seen on TV before. That will be done daily in the room, especially when the students come back. It'll be a daily, I don't know what you call it, fog. be like in Bakersfield a few years ago in the winter. Teachers will be trained today during this in-service on how to use the same disinfectant. We are looking into air filtration system to make sure that the airflow in your room is continuously circulated with preventative measures. We're looking into the ultraviolet light that hits that air into the vent that kills any, I'm just going to use the term germs right now that could be airborne. We have face shields right here in my office, and they're available upon request. If you'd like a face shield, don't put it in the chat room because there'll be too much to handle. But if you'd like a face shield, just email me or Christine. We'll have it on your desk, so when you come back, it's there. Most meetings to be held virtually. Principal meetings, school site meetings, we'll have those virtually. Sanitizers in all of our rooms. Restrictions on all visitors. Once we get through our conferences, there will be no visitors. We'll have the food lines, and that'll be about the only way you're going to get onto campus is to come through to pick up your food. I think that's a duplicate there. The sneeze shields will be in all offices, and those are big things that go on the counter to separate the office staff from visitors or parents. So we all know everyone prefers in-class instruction. That's going to be the best way to provide an education to our students. However, at this time, all schools must provide meaningful instruction. So this Thursday is our board meeting. Mr. Miller will recommend to the Board of Trustees that we begin distance learning. And this is our agenda for today. Believe it or not, that was kind of the opening. We're going to have the presentation on reopening, use the chat feature, of course. We're going to watch when we're finished with the presentation and answering some of the questions, we're going to watch a video from MOT on how to safely use the sanitation materials in your classroom. Again, this has nothing to do with MOT coming in and fogging the classroom. This is so if you feel comfortable and you want to spray down your doorknobs, maybe after a parent comes in for a conference and you're going to clean that desk, this is just a pump sprayer that you can actually use. Then you can take part of the day to do your Get Safety Trained if you'd like to. You have 2 items on that, mandated reporter and sexual harassment. You can do at your own pace. You do not have to do those today, but part of the professional development will be to go ahead and take those. And then at the end of the day, hopefully within a couple hours here, you're going to meet with your principal. Some of the principals I know have provided instructions via email, so check your email. One thing that's not on here, and I don't remember putting it in the presentation, is I emailed out a survey to everyone just a few minutes before we started this. It's a quick Google form. If you can open it, not right now, but sometime today, open it. I think it asks for your name and your site. And that's how we're going to take roll or attendance today. You're welcome to use the same tool to take attendance with your students, but we need to get Mrs. Nix some information on who attended. And I know those of you at home watching the YouTube, you should still get your email so you can do it the same way. Number 6, you can meet with your site grade level colleagues to plan. You can do it via Zoom, or you can choose to be in class, and that's fine as well. Tomorrow is a planning preparation day for you to prepare for conferences. A lot of stuff to do for those conferences, getting materials ready for the students. A little bit later, we'll have Ryan talk about technology equipment and it being prepared for you. But as far as you need to decide what you want to send home with the students, do they need your books? Do you just want to send home workbooks? Some teachers have your textbooks scanned on your computer, so you could use Google Classroom. It's going to be completely up to you and your colleagues how you want to do that. One thing for sure is we want to teach to our essential standards this year using the materials that the district has approved and purchased for you and the students. And then one day to schedule conferences at your leisure during the week of August 3rd. So there's nothing really scheduled for August 3rd, but we will get you 1 day of pay during that week. All you have to do is sign the paper in your site office at some point saying that you use, say, August, I don't know, 5th to schedule all your conferences. Conferences will be held in the classrooms August 10th through the 14th. And distance learning begins on August 17th. And I know that probably presents a lot of questions. Hopefully, throughout this presentation, we'll answer a lot of those questions. At this point, I know that the younger the students, the more you probably feel like this, especially trying to get first graders, kindergartners logged into a computer and then teach a lesson. Here's the cat herders of America. They think they'd rather teach distance learning. Probably not. Anyway, first question, is this presentation going to be made available to everyone? Yes. I didn't send it out prior, but we'll make sure everyone has that. And give us just a little, like a 30-second break here. I'm just going to check for other questions and we'll get back to you.
Kevin, this is Amy. I did see one question on there about the disinfectant we'll be using.
You mute.
It is a green chemical. It's on CDC's in list. It's approved to use without any personal protective equipment at all. But it is a green disinfectant, so it's very safe to use. Kevin, I also want to add, one of the questions was, I think some people may have taken the integrated germ management on Get Safety Trained already. That will satisfy you being able to use the disinfectant to clean your classrooms. So if you need to spray down the table or something, that's good enough if you've already taken that. If not, you need to watch the video at the end. And with that disinfectant, you'll just spray the area and let it dry. You don't want to wipe it.
Come to mind.
Okay, I think we're back and we'll move on. Thank you, Amy, for those clarifying statements. We did look at all the questions that were so far, and I think the presentation will answer most of those. Instruction time, each teacher follows the time allotted in this presentation. You need to be available between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. so that if a student has a question, they can email using their Google Mail or Gmail. And a lot of neat things that Ryan and Ken have been working on to make that work. And we'll talk about that a little later. Attendance needs to be taken. So I know some of you have already shared with me plans for how you're going to take attendance. I just threw up that Google form real quick to make it simple. At some point in the day, you'll have to transfer what you receive from your students over to PowerSchool. PowerSchool will still be the way we take our attendance. The earlier you can take that attendance, the better, simply because we will have people available to start calling students to make sure they're not having difficulty logging in. They are, they haven't dropped off and they're not interested anymore. We want to make sure we get people calling those students and helping them out. Again, nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so that we can fear less. A lot of fear being presented out there in the news media. Know that everyone here at school is trying to do our best to keep the school a safe place. So again, if you do not feel well in any way, please stay home and we can work with that. So our elementary schedule for distance learning. Again, some of these numbers might shock and awe you. These are, again, for elementary school. Remember, and I've said this plenty of times, especially for my kindergarten, first grade TK teachers, holy cow, 20 minutes for a EL or math lesson where it might take the students 15 minutes to open the computer, turn it on and start typing their login. Hopefully we're going to have a lot of parent assistance, but I understand that we won't in several cases. Through our conferences, we're going to make sure all of our students have Chromebooks. If there's 3 students in a family, that family needs 3 Chromebooks because the students will all be on the computer at the same time in different classes, most likely, unless somehow they're in the same classroom. They still need separate Chromebooks. So take a deep breath, think about it. Quite honestly, you might be not teaching, but you might be online longer than that because you're waiting for students to log in before you present a lesson. So these numbers also include not just you speaking in front of the computer, but time for the students to work. So you give them a very short task, and that's what it's going to have to be this year to start off with. I don't think you're going to teach a lesson like you would in the classroom. You're going to have to break it down, make it simple. You teach a small lesson, give the students some time to practice. That's going to be your 20, 30 minutes immediately. So we got roll call in the morning, followed by language arts, math, kind of a combination of history, science. Intervention in the afternoon. You can also throw art in there if you want the students to do something. This is, again, going to be up to you and your planning with your grade level. Intervention time for our RTI teachers can be completed at that time. EL teachers, and then some PE worksheets or something for them to do to stay physically fit. So total time out to the right, TK in kindergarten, 180 minutes. First through 3rd grade, 220 minutes, and 4. Again, we need to focus on, you're not going to be able to cover in any means or expected to cover everything that you cover in your normal classroom. When you meet with your grade level teachers, please go through the standards and decide which ones they just have to know and focus on those. Again, you integrate your social studies, science with ELA and math as much as possible for the elementary school sites. Assign PE, music, art during the distance learning to meet the daily instruction requirements. Get creative on this. A lot of creative people out there, and I know when you work with your grade levels, you'll come up with plenty of ideas. I spoke with Dave yesterday or the day before, And I know this schedule does not fit with what he had planned. So he is going to get that out to the junior high teachers. This is just a sample junior high schedule. Again, I want to say this is not the schedule that you'll be using, but it will be something similar to this. Okay. So I don't even want to take the time to go through it because it's not what you're using. So, Ryan, do we have any?
We change. Not practical on
Okay.
DSL.
I think looking at the questions right now, one question came up that there's some items on the report card that might not be practical to grade, one of them being spelling. I think what we'll have to do is reassess the report card when we get closer to that time. I have no idea right now how long we're going to be on distance learning. So we will reassess that after a couple weeks, see where we stand. And if we have to eliminate certain things, we would just put a code in spelling or whatever that subject might be for the elementary sites that you don't feel it's easy to do remotely. And we would skip that. Thanks for the question.
2 new ones.
2 additional questions. So give us a second here, please. Okay, another question was about PE worksheets for the elementary sites. Somebody asked if classroom teachers would be preparing those or the PE aides would be preparing those. I think that is going to be a site decision. We'll let the principals meet with you and figure this out. Of course, grade level wise, you'd want everyone doing the same thing. So that might be simple to throw a week of assignments together and send out, whether it's with the help of that PE assistant or not. Other question, Ryan? I forgot it already. The other was, how are you going to be notified when a new student arrives or enrolls in the school? They would do that the same way they do it before. The offices will meet parents as they come in, get them enrolled, and then assign them to a class. Ken and Ryan are on the Zoom. They would make sure same process would follow. They would get a login. We'd probably have a little bit more information provided during that enrollment period, and then get assigned to a classroom. Okay, this simply is a teacher schedule. And I know Mr. Miller had requested that we work a full day, 7:45 till 3:05. And this is kind of, and I know it won't work for everyone, but kind of a schedule that we're looking at. So daily synchronous instruction, live instruction from your classroom, interaction with students, with their teacher, and interaction between students and themselves and other students. Teach the essential standards. Attendance must be taken. We talked about that. Here's a caveat though. However, if a student arrives late, again, this is from the governor's office. If a student arrives late, participates, and completes work, they are marked present. So that's going to be something you take your roll, put it in PowerSchool, send it off. The student arrives late, we're going to need to have a note because you can't change their attendance. There's going to be new attendance codes as well, besides late, absent. There's going to be one dealing with COVID, one dealing with distance learning late. So we're still working on the answer to that. We don't have it right now. But just to let you know, we have to come up with something in that area. Also, we must keep students on track. If a student drops off, we're going to have other staff assist to get them back in class. Like I said before, program assistance for all EL students in the afternoon. RTI and small group reteaching planned in the afternoon, and extra activities like art and PE and stuff like that in the afternoon. Thought I'd throw this slide in there. Thank you for 94% of you participating or have already completed the Google Level 1 educator training. We already have 4 people that have completed the exam. I know some of you are a little hesitant to do that. It is an extra $150, I think. So many numbers are in my head. I think that's what it was. Excuse me. I encourage all of you to try it, even if you aren't successful the first time. You need a score of 80 or 80% or better to pass that. And I know there's restrictions on retaking the test, but give it a shot. See what it's like. You might surprise yourself, and some of you are going to do it pass no problem. So thank you for doing that.
Question, Kevin?
Yep. We're going to go to questions here, so I'll give it a time to think about it while you're looking at this slide. Couple questions. If a student does complete work but does not show their face on your Google Meet, how do you mark that? Again, we don't know what the codes are yet, but when we develop the codes, we'll make sure we have a code for that. A lot of questions, and that sounds like something that's going to be ever evolving as well. We'll try to kill it the first time, but this is all new to us as well. Second question was, I've completed all the 13 lessons in the professional development, but haven't taken the test, or I might have taken the test and I need to retake it. Should I turn in the 13 completed assignments first? Yes. We need the 13 assignments completed and turned in at ASAP, preferably before the 17th, so we know that you're on your way to distance learning using the district adopted Google platform. And then there's no time limit on turning in the completed assessment. So if you do that in December and you pass that test and you want to turn it in December, you'll get the extra $150.
Oh, yes, no. And will we be required to be on campus?
You're on.
Yeah, the question was, we're required to work Monday through Friday during contracted hours. Yes, if there are some exceptions that you have related to personal health situations, you would let the district office through Jennifer Westner know on that. But yes, we want people here at school, and we feel like that gives us the best chance to deliver the best program with the support here that we have and the classified employees that we have here each day. We feel like that's the best way to move forward. So thank you for the question.
Whoops, sorry. In this slide, I know we've all seen our TikTok videos and YouTube and everything else of people setting up their Zoom or Google Meet video sessions. Just be cautious of your background. You know, and unfortunately, you don't have a lot of control, but you can caution parents when they come to your conferences on how they're going to assist their students. Yes, they need to be dressed and appropriate language, unmute, and so forth. And I'm not talking about you, but talking about parents and what's happening out in the homes. If you record lessons, please do not use student names or student pictures in the recorded lessons. Remember, as in this little graphic here, especially the younger students, we hope there's going to be others watching your presentations. So just be able to, I don't know exactly how we can do it, but be wary of the students that might show up dressed inappropriately, and have a plan for what you're going to do if that happens. Take one quick break so I can check the questions one more time. Okay, very good. We're going to move forward. Distance learning concerns. Parents don't know how to use Chromebooks. When you have your conferences, please be thorough going through exactly how you would like parents to assist the students. Since we're going to have it in your classroom and you're going to be 8 to 10 feet away from that parent, Ryan will make sure that Ryan and Ken and the tech crew will make sure that you know how to hook your Chromebook up to your smartboard and provide examples right in your classroom with the parent following along with the student's login right next to them. We have this demonstrated in a video that we're going to show here in a bit, and want everyone to look at that before we get any more questions on conferences. Okay, so we'll keep going. Students don't have their textbooks. Well, if you want them to have their textbooks, make sure you have it available at those conferences. That means, yes, you're probably going to need to get in your room. Someone even suggested setting up each desk in your classroom exactly what you want to send home. That way it's all set up, and when it's time for Johnny's conference, you go to Johnny's desk, take everything on top of it, including the Chromebook, and set over on the parent table where you're going to have the conference. Again, those tables will be 8 to 10 feet away from where you'll be. Everyone will have a mask on. Students don't have school supplies. Well, after deciding what you would like to send home with the students, there's going to be a warehouse order form, a special one that says COVID-19 on it. I don't know if we can do a special color or not. If not, if you get an old warehouse form, write COVID-19 at the top of it. I don't want you waiting around and having to worry about finding the right form. The warehouse materials will get sent home. Well, first it get delivered to your classroom, and then you can send it home, and your account won't be charged for those materials. So I think that answers some of the other questions we had. So we're going to look at technology for a minute, and we're going to, some of you were wondering, we're really going to send a Chromebook home with each student. That's the plan right now. There's going to be a helpline that if a parent listens to you in your classroom, and then they get home and you know how it is. They turn around twice and they can't figure it out. Well, there'll be a phone number they can call to get some help. And what to do, excuse me, what to do if the home has no Wi-Fi. So I'm going to turn it over to Ryan for a minute here.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Williams. We are going to set up a helpline, phone numbers that parents can call if they have any issues. We're going to be checking an email address kind of hourly. Ken and I and our interns are all going to get it, as well as a phone number that we're going to try to answer up until 8 o'clock at night for parents that have issues. We believe we need the parents to be as successful as possible. The Chromebook checkout, again, we want to send as many devices home as possible. We believe that's going to be the best path of success for us because everything will work. If a Chromebook is at home, it gets our relay, it gets Orchestrator, it gets all the tools that you need for their classroom here. So I think we want to encourage as many of those to go home as possible. We have 900 on order that are going to be here in November and December that will replenish our current Beardsley stock. So if there is a need, we want to make that household make sure that household has the equipment they need. If the residence does not have Wi-Fi, we actually have hotspots on order that I think are going to be here today, but we want to coordinate that with our principals. Being that we have so many families with different names, that we want to do one hotspot per household that will run, it looks like, about up to 4 to 5 devices. So we want to coordinate that through our principals so there's communication between what families have them and don't.
Thanks, Ryan. Very good. Okay. I know that was a lot. We're going to look at what we are going to provide for you as far as extra days to plan and prepare. I know today is still part of your summer break. There's no way that we can get around this if we're going to try to open on August 17th. So this is what we have planned. Some of you can do this today and tomorrow. Others are going to have to set up other days because it just doesn't work in your plan. Some of you may be watching from wherever. I won't even guess. But the district right now is providing 6 additional training, prep, conference days for you to get ready for distance learning. That means 7 total if you're taking that Google Level 1 educator training. The daily rate of $305 will be paid except for the Google training, which was $315. Today is this district presentation and then planning with your site grade level, meeting with your principal if they'd like to do that. When I say meeting, again, via Zoom, even if you're on campus, you can participate that via Zoom. Don't show up in the principal's office. Tomorrow, planning on site with your grade level. Again, I realize some of you aren't in town. Talk to your grade level, San Loren, San Loren and Beardsley Elementary and junior high. You don't have a big crew to work with, so you can do that however it works for you. North Beardsley, you have more teachers per grade level, so that might get complicated, but try to work that out for yourself. August, one day during the week of August 3rd. We don't care when you take that. There will be sign-in sheets in the office for you to get credit for that day. You want to make phone calls from home and get credit for the day. You don't have to run to school to sign it that morning. Just make your phone calls. Don't forget at some point when you go through your office to say, hey, August 4th, I made my phone calls. Write your name on the list, and I'm sure you're going to be busy. There's a lot of other things that you'll be doing. August 10th through the 12th. I know it's 3 days. The week of August 10th is 5 days, August 10th through the 14th. You have to, you're normally scheduled back to work on the 13th, 2 days prior to instruction. 13th, 14th is Thursday and Friday. So we're going to pay you the 3 days prior to that, August 10th through the 12th, to begin conferencing with one parent, one-on-one, and deliver Chromebooks, workbooks, if you'd like textbooks, any materials that you'd like. There'll be time to get that all prepared. Again, use the COVID-19 warehouse order form or write COVID-19 at the top of your warehouse order for any warehouse items that you need to send home to your students. If you already have the materials in your classroom, get a warehouse order. You say you have an example, I can't think, 30 pencils, and you're going to send pencils home. Write 30 pencils on this COVID warehouse form so that we can replace the 30 pencils that you're giving out with 30 more in your classroom. Hopefully that makes sense. Your first day of service this year, I just went through that. So instruction will begin on August 17th. So at this time, we're going to use the Google form to check your attendance today and tomorrow. I'll send out another one tomorrow morning. Again, these days are somewhat flexible. Make sure that you stay in contact with your grade level so they know what's, when you plan on meeting. Sign-in sheets will be available at your site office for the remaining days that you can sign in to receive your pay. Class lists. Who do you know who's going to be in your class? Well, the principal, they bought that neat program that I forgot the name of it. It schedules all your students. They're pulling up last year's information and aligning it with those lists, and they're going to get those to you by tomorrow. Again, on your own time, call each student on your list and schedule a conference with one adult in your room the week of August 10th through the 14th. Conferences should be in 1 hour blocks between 7:30 and 3 because we have to clean the rooms. So I know there's going to be parents that say, I need to meet after 5. Well, we can't do that because we have MOT that's going to have to clean the rooms or disinfect the rooms. All students will be rostered in Google Classroom for you by our IT department. Okay, at this time, I want to thank a group of people that came in to school and we worked on creating a video. Ryan put this video together that kind of give you an idea of what we see, how we see a conference working. It's not perfect. We all know that. If it doesn't work in your room, work with your principal, your grade level partners to figure out what's the best way to set up a conference in your room. We want to make sure that the parents are a long ways away from you. They're going to be screened prior to entering the campus. So before they ever get to your room, the gates are going to be closed and they have to get through our screening process. They'll have a thank you badge once they're screened, so that they didn't climb the fence somewhere, which I know is not going to happen, but they will have a thank you badge, hopefully making you feel a little bit more comfortable. So Ryan, in order for me to show this video, I'm going to stop sharing. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, give us a second here, folks. That's Kevin at technology. I kept talking after I muted. So if you need to get up and refill your coffee cup or something, we're going to take about 1 minute and then show this video. Thanks.
in through that door. Can you pop it open too, please? Well, welcome. Thank you for meeting me today. In front of you, you can see there's a packet of really important papers. If you could start filling those out, there's a pen there for you. But I will need those before you leave today. Is the emergency form, the school lunch information, those types of things. So right there on the side of the table, you'll notice there's a Chromebook charger, and there's also a form there. If you could start filling that out, I'd appreciate it. It will be just the contract that you have that Chromebook for your child. Okay. All right. Beardsley teachers. So everyone knows every child at the Beardsley School District will be receiving a Chromebook. So some parents might say, oh, well, we have a Chromebook, but we want every student to have their own Chromebook. At this time, hotspots will be available through principals so that if a family needs one, they can get one. But they have to go through each site principal to get one. Okay, Mr. Phelps, so right there in front of you are our attendance expectations. So your child needs to join the Google Meet class every morning by 8:30. And there's the code up on the smartboard, but it's also on the paper there and also the little cheat sheet business card. The 3x5 card there has all the information that your child will need. So once they join, they'll need to join Google Classroom, and on the Google Classroom it will have an assignment, and that's how I will know that they are present on that day. All right, Beardsley teachers, just to let you know that the protocol is really going to be up to you as far as how are you going to take attendance? How are you going to know the child has met with you that day? Is it going to be through a morning meeting? Is it going to be a Google form that you push out and they answer the questions that you ask? That will be up to you. There will be a form that some people are creating and sharing, so we can talk more about it when we have our Zoom meeting. Okay, Mr. Phelps, your student will have access to Gmail. That will be a way for students and teachers to communicate. And all that they have to do is click on the big M, and on the Chromebook, they will be able to get their email so they can send questions. We can communicate that way. Mr. Phelps, do you have any questions?
Yes. What if I get home and I try to hook up the Chromebook and everything, my kids help me, and I just can't get it to work? What do I do?
Yeah, good question. On that paper there's some information. You can call and someone will be able to help you out, or email and someone will get right back to you. But someone will certainly contact you because it is really important that we are all connected. Okay, Mr. Phelps, so if you could go ahead, over there on the table are all the supplies that you'll need. And there's a backpack there, so put that in there. There's a bag of supplies, Chromebook. Don't forget that cheat sheet. And thank you so much, and I really look forward to seeing your student on Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, and don't forget, you can take the pen.
Oh, great.
Okay, Beardsley teachers. So this is how, this is one way that you can have your teacher and parent meeting. What's going to happen is that everyone will be receiving their class list. Okay, so if you could please contact the people on your list and ask that one adult, no children are allowed, come to the school. There will be a table out in front where the person manning that table will have all of our schedules. We'll let the one parent in. They need to sit outside one door, and then you invite them in when you're ready. If you have a classroom that only has one door, then you have a few options. You can put the table at the door and just have the parents sit outside and you're on the inside. Or if you're not comfortable being in the room at all, you can move the table outside under a tree. It's totally up to what you feel comfortable doing. Okay, so the district is providing all of us with some cleaning supplies to take care of sanitizing the area after the parent leaves. There will be sneeze guards. It might not look exactly like this, but it is available for you. But you'll want to go ahead and wearing the gloves, using just paper towels, sanitize the whole tabletop, the chairs, both chairs that the parent sat in, along with the doorknob. So that needs to be sanitized, and then you can just dispose of the paper towels. I'm sorry, sir. Can you please put your mask on? Cover your mouth and nose. Okay. All right, thank you for doing that. Now I need to just check to see if you have a confirmed appointment. Yes, you do. Check to make sure that you have a mask in your child's backpack. You don't have a backpack? Here you go. Let me check your temperature. And here's a pen. And you'll need to go to room 7. Do you know where that is?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, teachers, when you have the chance to, when you're on the phone with the parent, please make sure that they know that there will be a table set outside the school where they will need to confirm that they have a scheduled appointment. They'll need to have a mask. Hopefully they have a backpack for their child. If they don't, we will have some available. They will have to have their temperature checked. It needs to be in the guidelines for them to continue on campus. We will have a pen that they will be receiving and filling out the paperwork with, and then they'll go to your classroom.
Well, thank you to everyone that participated in the video, and thanks to Ryan for putting all that together. Not meant to be anything professional by any means, but a couple of things that I noticed while we're watching that video. I found out later that sanitizing process with the spray bottle in your classroom, there's no wiping needed. The sanitizer, sanitation, whatever it is, liquid material, it dries on contact, so you won't have to touch anything. Make sure that the parent takes the pen with them. They'll receive the pen at the front gate, be able to bring it with them at the conference, and then they can take that with them when they leave. So there should be the table should be clear after the conference. Spray it down and then add the new materials for the next conference to the table. So I think that was pretty much it for the conference checklist. Really encourage them to bring a backpack. We handed out backpacks last year because we were trying to figure out how we're going to get rid of all these backpacks. Well, now we need them. So they're all handed out. Just be thinking of that. Okay, so during the conference, please review your expectations for participation. Make sure the family has Wi-Fi at home, otherwise the Chromebook won't work. If they don't have Wi-Fi, you need to refer them to the school office to talk to the principal, and the principals will work with Ryan, Ken, and the tech team to make sure we get Wi-Fi's or hotspots to those families. You're only going to have this one chance to deliver the books, supplies, Chromebooks, and login information. So let's think through the process in the next couple of days so that you can start getting it all organized before the 10th. Allow time for parents to complete the enrollment packet while they're in your classroom. Remind the parent of backgrounds during the meetings. In other words, when the student logs in at home, dad can't walk through the picture dressed inappropriately or worse. Like I said, you've all seen the videos on Facebook. Anyway, let's see what else. August 17th. That is the first day of instruction. Would like to start your Google Meet the Teacher at 8:30 a.m. Make the 17th an easy day for you. You're going to be stressed out enough, but make sure it's inviting so that the students will want to come back on the 18th. Don't cram it down their throat on the 17th. We want those students to be logged in and participating. Provide grade level appropriate instruction for how class will work through distance learning. Your hope is the same as mine. I hope we don't have to do this very long. Again, it's going to depend on the health numbers for our county. People are going to hear other counties are opening up. Just remind them that is not the decision made by the district. That's decision made by the state via Kern County Health numbers. Include procedures to use while in your meetings. In other words, everyone stays on mute. How do you want a student to ask a question? Things like that. Work with your grade level teams. Use Google Meet with each other and see, how can I make a breakout room? How can a student signal if they have a question? So practice with that. That'll take a little bit of time. And I know if you took those, the level 1 educator training, you have a good idea of what you want to do now, but you practice it a bit before you work with the students. And how would you like the students to contact you with questions? Via email or whatever. So things to accomplish. Collaborate with your grade level colleagues at your site, especially tomorrow. You can do it via Zoom today if you'd like. Some of you are already here. I'd say about a quarter of the people are at school. The rest of you are at home today. That's fine. Plan how you want to take roll. I would keep it similar for many reasons, but one of the reasons is due to an absence. If one teacher is absent, the other teacher knows exactly what they did in their classroom to take roll. Prepare the class for conferences. Student, this is kind of a repeat. Call the parents. Make sure they know to come alone. Bring a mask. And if for some reason they don't feel good that morning, stay home. Okay. Bounce ideas off each other for how to effectively reach students. Effectively reaching 6th graders is a heck of a lot different than reaching the kindergarten teachers, and I understand that. Again, include details when scheduling an appointment. There was a question, will the district do an all call to parents about upcoming conferences? Yes, we'll make sure they know that they're going to receive a call from a number that might not be known. Some of you will be calling from school, that's fine. But some of you that choose to call from outside, we'll make sure that parents know that there is a call coming for conferences. Remind the parent that only one adult will be allowed to attend the conference, no children. And I know some of you have even expressed concern that you'd like the children to come so that you can meet them. Unfortunately, the state guidelines say no students can be on campus right now. The drive-through is an exception because they're locked in their car and there's a separation between people providing the food and the kids in the car. Make a note if that parent doesn't speak English well so that we can have a translator available during that time. Ask the parent to bring a face mask and a backpack or some type of bag that they can carry a lot of materials home with them. And inform the parent they'll need a photo ID and have their temperature taken at the front gate prior to entry. And I know that's a sticky point for some people, both the photo ID and the temperature, but that's something we have to stick with to protect you and to protect others on campus. So that's what we'll be doing. So the school entrance table, I know we watched the video, but for the principals to plan, we need 2 people there in case somebody needs a break. 2 people, 2 employees assigned by the principal. Won't be teachers because the teachers will be in the classrooms. Ask the parent to wear their mask if it's missing as they're approaching the table. Can you please put your mask on? Ask for them to show their ID. You don't have to hold their ID, just so you can match the picture on the ID with them, hopefully. Confirm the appointment time on the paper. They're going to check the temperature and record it on that appointment sheet. If the temperature's over 100.4, the parent can return to their car and cool off for a little bit and have it rechecked after 5 minutes. But if the temperature is 100.5 or above, they cannot enter campus. And we'll just call you and let you know the parent is not going to make it. Last thing is they will give the parent a thank you sticker to wear and a pen, directions to your room. And they'll also instruct them. However, some of them will forget in that 100 yards to get to your room. They're going to ask the parent to wait outside your room until you invite them in. Okay. The conference. Invite the parent to enter the classroom through the door of your choice, preferably the opposite door that you're using. Some classrooms don't have 2 doors, so that's something that you're going to need to work through yourself, your colleagues, your principal. Provide detail. You might have to use a different room. That's just something, talk to your principal about that. Detailed information about your daily schedule, expectations for participation. Demonstrate and have the parent repeat logging in to the Chromebook. Caution about the appropriateness of the backgrounds. Explain your expectations for using materials and how those books need to come back to school along with the Chromebook if we go back to traditional learning. One thing that we've talked about with our tech group is, we're going to get used to using these Chromebooks at home. You're going to get used to providing some assignments. So when we go back to traditional, some of you might want the students to use their Chromebooks at home. That's going to be okay. We just need to work through that. So be thinking of that. Answer any questions the parent might have, and then allow them time to complete the paperwork. They should keep the pen that they're using and then disinfect everything that they touched. Prepare the table for the next conference. Getting some questions about what are other staff that don't have a homeroom, what are they to do? APP teachers and such. We're going to work with principals to make sure that you have an assignment. Assisting teachers with technology issues, calling students that aren't participating, helping out. So we're working on that. So what happens if you are exposed or you have symptoms? Just about any illness today, the symptoms are on the COVID list. If you go out and you mow the lawn and you start sneezing because you've got hay fever and the grass got in your nose, well, that's a symptom. So what happens if you have illness symptoms? The first thing you need to do is stay home. Stay home. You decide if this is something easy or something that you need to call your doctor about. So if you don't have COVID, there's some steps. If you test positive for COVID, here's some other steps. Everyone has questions about leave. And I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Miller. And he's going to talk to you about the next couple of slides. Just, excuse me, just to try to clarify. So, Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Yeah, so the slides about some federal action that was taken back in March, I believe March 19th. It's called Families First Coronavirus Response Act, or FFCRA. You may have heard a little bit about it. Maybe you have not. It is good through December 30th, which is 4 months from now, and it provides extra sick days for illnesses related to the coronavirus, or if you feel like you may have been around people who have contracted or had corona, it is usable for that as well. And I won't read the whole verbiage below, but you can go back and take a look at that. Next slide. Okay, so this is a quick flow chart, very simplistic sort of flow chart that shows what this extra coverage is for. Each case would be different. If you feel like you have been exposed potentially to COVID or feel like you need to be tested for it, there are 10 extra days in this piece of legislation that would allow you to use those for those sorts of situations. The top left box, if an employee tests positive, has got a quarantine, there's 10 days there, as I alluded to or mentioned earlier. It's not deducted from your leave. Okay, so your district leave that you accrue each year, it wouldn't touch that. There's 10 days available. As you move to the right, after the 10-day period, then an employee would then access their own sick leave at that point, is how that would work. And again, there's a lot of specifics that relate to different situations here, at which point the point in time we would deal with those would be when you contacted my office through Mrs. Wessner, and we would go from there. But this is the general strokes. This is relatively new, again, federal legislation that provides extra days for teachers and other staff as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Miller. A few questions that have come up. I know kindergartners continue to enroll, it says through October, but basically they're enrolling all year, and along with first, second, third, fourth, all the way through. Is there a chance to conference with them? Yes. Hopefully, again, this does not go into the school year that far, but say it does. Say it does. We can, there's times within your schedule there that you can have a conference basically at any point during the day. So in the afternoon, wherever we need a conference, we can build that in. If it's a certain day and you need to not teach in the afternoon for something, make sure your students know, because you have a conference during that time. I think everyone's going to be flexible. The main thing is to communicate with your principal so that you can just shoot it past someone else and they can think about, have we covered all of our bases? So just communicate effectively with your site administration, principal, vice principal. Another question was, it can't do the small groups or breakout sessions count as part of your total minutes for the day? Yes. Anytime the students are working on school items, that counts towards your minutes. The breaks, if you take a break and you say we're going to come back in an hour and you give them nothing to work on, then that doesn't necessarily count. But if you say, okay, you're going to do workbook page 6, you don't have to stay online that entire time they're doing workbook page 6, but that time counts, and you'll have to estimate what you think it would take them to do that, same as you would in the classroom. Okay, these are things that unfortunately we don't have the answers for, but we are working on it. I did ask a daycare question on the staff survey. There's 9 of you that have children between the ages of 5 and 9 or 10, whatever it was. And I know to come to school, you might have to do something with those students. Well, we're still working on that. As of last week, the state was looking into, can those students participate in our ACES daycare on site for essential employees. They had not given us an answer yet, but I'm hoping they will, so we can have, you can bring your students with you. We can spread them out in the cafeteria. They could get their Chromebooks out, log into wherever they're going to school, and participate in those lessons as well. So that's what we're waiting on. We just don't have an answer. Nutrition services, the times of distribution, I'm assuming is going to be on the earlier side, like we did last year. Thanks to Mr. Phelps for helping out with that and kind of running it toward the end there with the cafeteria folks and staff. We're going to, during this distance learning, we're going to have to continue to do that. So that'll be ongoing. Again, not sure on COVID testing requirements. In other words, one of the governor's edicts was that staff will work in cohorts that will be tested regularly. There's no definition as to what regularly is. So can't fill you in on that yet. Immunity bill. There is a bill that is supposed to hold harmless schools and districts from lawsuits pertaining to COVID, since our insurance company, CISC, doesn't necessarily insure anything to do with viruses. We're going to need some type of assurance that we don't get sued because Johnny got the corona at school. We'll go into that later as well. That's still pending. Special education. I know you've got a huge task in front of you, and this is something that you'll need to meet with John Barge and discuss what your plans are. You'll need to meet with the teachers on campus. How are you going to best support the students that you serve, and new time requirements. So again, this is the I don't have the answers page, but we're working on it.
I don't know the answer to that one yet, Kevin. I think it's one pop. I think it's 10 days, but
Okay.
she's asking us.
Question about the 10-day relief on COVID symptoms or COVID exposure. Say you have been exposed to COVID or someone in your family and they want you quarantined. You get your 10 days at that time, and then say a month later, you actually get COVID, which we hope not, but and you need more days. We don't have an answer for that right now. Sorry, we'll look into it. Substitutes. I think we're going on. I don't know what happened to my substitute
We
page.
just skipped over Oroni by accident.
Oh.
Yeah, you might want to go
Was it
back,
back?
Kevin. Yeah, I just think it's that one.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
What I'd like you to do, and again, talk to your principal. There's not going to be a sub that knows what you do and knows how you're preparing your classroom and all that. This is why we really need you to work with your um, partners. But we have kicked this around. I don't know what the answer is. I think if you and your colleagues plan together, if and as far as our tech department, I don't know if they can actually open up assign someone else's class, teacher A to teacher B for a day. But we're working on the answer to this. If you did take another group's students for a day during their ill time, you would get compensated for that time that you're out. We're still working through it. So I guess my answer is we're working on it, but we don't have the answer right yet. Mr. Miller, do you have anything else to add before we move on? Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is before we have we end this meeting and we start with your principals. Again, you've had some guidance from your principal, whether they want to have another Zoom, they want to push it off to another time. Check your email when we end this. But before you get off this Zoom, we want to show you the training video for the disinfectant from MOT. We need to make sure everyone sees this that's going to be using it. Highly important in a school situation. When we do finish the video though, talk to your principals about access to the campus. Campuses are open now. If you come onto campus, please wear a mask until you are alone in your room. Lounges are closed. If you go to the workroom to make copies, everyone needs to be wearing masks and practice your social distancing. Special circumstances for conferences at your site, talk to your principal, work it out. We might have to open a cafeteria for somebody that can't work in their room correctly. And then classified assignments will come from the principals, and so forth. So before I have Ryan start this, it's 10 o'clock. That means we've been doing this for an hour and a half. Again, we're ready to go, but I want to take a couple minute break. That way, because this video I've been told is over 30 minutes long. Again, this is your professional development today. So not that I want to keep you online for 30 minutes, but we have to watch this. So there is a quiz that goes along with this afterwards. So make sure you watch it and we'll get to that. Not today. We'll make sure there's a sign-in sheet and everything in the office. Don't worry about the quiz. It's pretty easy, kind of like the mandated reporter. Also, when you're finished with our meeting with your principal, you do have the rest of the day and all day tomorrow to complete the mandated reporter sexual harassment trainings online. If you're a brand new teacher and you don't have a clue what I'm talking about, or you're a returning teacher and don't have a clue what I'm talking about, we'll make sure Jennifer gets that information to you, okay? Through your email. Okay, 5-minute break. My phone says 10:06. So let's go at 10:10. We will start the video. Thank you, guys. Last question is, will the front desk, the check-in desk, have a mask available for parents if they did not bring a mask? We will have something available. So
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to go over really quick this video. The Department of Pesticide requires, if you're going to use a disinfectant in your classroom, that you have to watch this video. Like I said earlier, if you've already done the integrated germ management on Get Safety Trained, you don't have to watch this video. They do, however, log into that system and check and make sure that you have taken it. So if you haven't done it, then definitely watch this video. We will be providing you spray bottles with the disinfectant in your classrooms. As Kevin said, you'll just have to spray the surface, and it has to have a dwell time to kill the virus, and then it dries on its own. So you won't have to do any wiping. Once the students do return, we'll have to collect those spray bottles because we can't have them in the classroom with the students in the classroom. But after this video, you guys will be trained and can use the disinfectant.
Thank you, Amy. Folks, we are going to start the video now. And again, just a reminder, at the conclusion of the video, principals really had and I had no idea how long this was going to take, but they will give you some direction, however they normally communicate with you, whether it's through email or text or whatever. Again, some are planning on meeting today and some are planning on other times, but it'd be a great time for you to start collaborating with your grade level group and decide where we go from here. So I'm going to have Ryan go ahead and start the video. Thanks.
Welcome to the California Department of Pesticide Regulations Integrated Germ Management course. This free training course was developed by California Department of Pesticide Regulations School and Childcare IPM program staff and meets the Healthy Schools Act training requirement. This course was designed for school staff whose use of pesticides at a school site is limited to antimicrobials such as disinfectants and sanitizers. However, anyone who uses disinfectants and sanitizers can take this course and benefit from learning more about the proper use. For more in-depth information on general integrated pest management practices and other types of pesticides, please check out our other free courses. Product disclaimer. The mention of commercial products, their sources, or their use is not to be construed as either an actual or implied endorsement. Mention is made of one or more representative products, but the Department of Pesticide Regulation does not recognize any product as superior to any other. Whether you're a child care provider, a school teacher, a custodian, a school nurse, or a nutrition services worker, you probably use a certain kind of pesticide every day at your work. Sanitizers and disinfectants are in a category of pesticides called antimicrobial pesticides. We use antimicrobial pesticides to reduce the spread of disease, including ones caused by bacteria, viruses, and fungi. These disease-causing microorganisms are what we commonly call germs. Because we use antimicrobial pesticides every day to keep our schools sanitary, it can be easy to forget that these products need to be treated with as much caution as any other pesticide. Sanitizers and disinfectants are important tools in public health, but we need to use them according to the label to protect ourselves and the children in our care from pesticide injury or illness. This training will guide you on how and where to use different antimicrobial pesticides safely and effectively to reduce the risk of injury or illness from pesticide exposure. This is a strategy we are calling integrated germ management. Anytime we use a sanitizer or disinfectant, we are exposed to a certain amount of that product. If we aren't careful, we could be exposed to too much. We could spill it on ourselves, inhale a dangerous amount, or splash it in our eyes. The consequences of misuse can be as minor as temporary skin irritation or as severe as requiring hospitalization. Using sanitizers and disinfectants as part of our daily routine can lead to us getting too comfortable with them and forgetting to take precautions. Throughout this training, we will provide actual case studies involving the misuse of antimicrobial pesticides. How can you or a child be injured by a sanitizer or disinfectant? If we get a sanitizer or disinfectant on our skin, it could cause a chemical burn or a rash. If we inhale the vapors of a sanitizer or disinfectant, it could cause difficulty breathing. If a sanitizer or disinfectant gets into our eyes, it could cause blindness. Over 1/3 of the pesticide illnesses reported annually to the California Department of Pesticide Regulation, abbreviated DPR, are associated with antimicrobial pesticide use. The majority of these illnesses are due to the products not being used according to the label directions. Since these products are often sold on shelves along with regular cleaning products, it's easy to overlook their potential health hazards. Most reported illnesses are minor, such as temporary eye irritation, a rash on unprotected skin, or temporary respiratory problems from inhaling fumes. However, serious illnesses can also occur. For example, mixing antimicrobial pesticides with other products is dangerous because toxic gases could be released. For instance, mixing bleach and ammonia causes the release of toxic vapors called chloramines. And repeated improper exposure to sanitizers and disinfectants can cause chronic health problems for workers, like asthma. The label of every pesticide registered by DPR and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, abbreviated EPA, is required to list the health hazards from exposure. Some products are listed as corrosive and can cause severe burns to your skin or eyes on contact. Repeated improper exposure to sanitizers and disinfectants can lead to skin sensitization over time. Other pesticide products are harmful or even fatal if swallowed or inhaled. Inhalation can also cause respiratory irritation, leading to coughing and respiratory distress. Long-term respiratory illnesses, like asthma, have been associated with some ingredients found in disinfectants and sanitizers. The California Department of Public Health reports that in California, 40% of adults who currently suffer from asthma claim that their asthma has been either caused or aggravated by the work conditions. Some people are more sensitive to pesticide exposure. A person's age and size can affect how their body reacts when exposed to a pesticide. Antimicrobial pesticide safety is important for more than just workers. It's important for students too. If antimicrobial pesticides are improperly used, children can be exposed to the residue on surfaces or in the air. Children's health can be affected by small amounts of pesticide residue. Exposure to pesticides can be especially harmful to children since they have fewer natural defenses. For instance, their skin is softer and more absorbent, so a chemical burn from a sanitizer or disinfectant could injure them more than an adult. Their bodies and organs are still developing, so they are more sensitive to pesticide exposure. A child's immature lungs can be damaged by inhaling pesticide fumes, possibly triggering long-term effects like asthma. Children are more likely than adults to be exposed to pesticide residue. They spend more time playing on floors and grass where pesticides may have been applied. They crawl on carpets and have full body contact with the floor. They're naturally curious and could come into contact with incorrectly stored pesticides. Young children are more likely to put their hands or toys in their mouths, potentially ingesting anything on those objects. Compared to adults, they breathe at a faster rate, eat and drink more for their size, and have more absorbent skin. If pesticides are used improperly in a child's environment, it increases their risk of health problems. Children's bodies are more vulnerable to health problems associated with pesticide exposure. Their bodies are growing and developing. They are more vulnerable if they inhale corrosive fumes since they have smaller airways. The nervous, immune, digestive, and respiratory systems are still developing, so they are less able to handle the effects of hazardous chemicals. A child's liver, the organ that helps break down toxins, is not fully developed until age 7. Improper exposure to pesticides at a young age can lead to long-term health problems. We need to keep the school environment sanitary, but we also need to reduce the risk of developing health problems from repeated improper exposure to sanitizers and disinfectants. How can we do this? By using antimicrobial pesticides only when and where we need them, we can keep exposure to a minimum while maintaining a sanitary learning environment. The words cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting are often used interchangeably, but they actually all mean different things. Cleaning is the act of physically removing dirt from a surface by scrubbing, washing, wiping, and rinsing. You can use a mild soap or detergent and water for cleaning. Sanitizing means to apply a product that reduces germs to safer levels. Sanitizing surfaces destroys enough germs to reduce the risk of becoming ill from contact with those surfaces. Disinfecting means to apply a product that destroys nearly all germs when applied to hard, non-porous surfaces. Disinfecting is a higher level of germ killing. Determine what level of cleanliness is needed in each location. First, identify those high-touch areas where germs are most likely to grow, like doorknobs and light switches. Use either a sanitizer or disinfectant, depending on the level of germ control you need. For food contact surfaces, you should use an antimicrobial product labeled for food contact surface uses, and always follow your local county health guidelines for food preparation. Use disinfectants for surfaces with high germ potential, like toilets and sinks. We can keep the school environment sanitary and also reduce our exposure to pesticides by determining the different levels of cleanliness needed, using sanitizers and disinfectants only when and where we need them, knowing what products to use to achieve the desired cleanliness level, and using those products according to their label. Quiz question. Match the process to its definition. The correct answers are cleaning, physically removing dirt from a surface; sanitizing, reducing enough germs on a surface to reduce the risk of becoming ill from contact; disinfecting, destroying nearly all germs on a hard, non-porous surface. We've been talking about sanitizers and disinfectants, which are antimicrobial pesticides. So how do we know if a product is a pesticide? Which of these are pesticides? Insect sprays are pesticides. Weed killers are pesticides. General cleaners, such as window cleaners, do not claim to kill germs, so are not pesticides. A pesticide is defined as a chemical designed to kill or control pests like weeds, bugs, and germs on inanimate surfaces. An antimicrobial pesticide, like a sanitizer or disinfectant, specifically targets disease-causing microorganism pests or germs. Whenever you use a product intended to disinfect, sanitize, reduce, or prevent the growth of germs on an inanimate surface, you're using an antimicrobial pesticide. For example, when you use disinfectant wipes to kill germs on a surface, you're using an antimicrobial pesticide. When you look at the label, a product intended to be used as a pesticide will have pesticidal claims on the label. A pesticidal claim is a claim saying that the product manages pests or changes the conditions in which they can live. A product marketed as a disinfectant or sanitizer is making a pesticidal claim to inhibit the growth of microorganisms on the surface. Products with pesticidal claims are required to be evaluated and registered by both the EPA and DPR before they can be sold in California. Other examples of pesticidal claims are antibacterial, germicidal, and kills 99.9% of germs. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency registration number will help you identify if your product is a pesticide. You will find the EPA registration number on every registered antimicrobial pesticide label. It is often at the bottom of the label on the back of the container or near the UPC. An EPA registration number lets you know that the US EPA and DPR have reviewed the product and determined that data shows the product to be safe and effective if used according to the label. It also lets you know that the pesticidal claims are accurate. Never use a product to disinfect or sanitize if it doesn't have an EPA registration number on the label. A lot of people in schools and childcare facilities use hand sanitizers. Many people ask if hand sanitizers are pesticides covered by the Healthy Schools Act. The answer to that question is no. Antimicrobial pesticides are used to kill microorganisms on inanimate surfaces, while hand sanitizers are used to kill microorganisms on the human body. Because of this, hand sanitizers are regulated under the Food and Drug Administration. You will not find a US EPA registration number on a hand sanitizer because it is not a pesticide. It is legally a topical antiseptic. Since these products are not regulated by the US EPA and DPR, they are not subject to the Healthy Schools Act requirements. How do you decide which process you should use? In a public K-12 school, there is no statewide standard set of requirements for where you must clean, sanitize, or disinfect outside the California Retail Food Code for school cafeterias. Check with your school district and local county health guidelines for their requirements. While many areas will just need cleaning, sanitizing and disinfecting may be required in others. For instance, sanitizing may be required for cafeterias and food preparation areas, and disinfecting may be required for restrooms, shower and locker rooms, science classrooms, home economics rooms, the nurse's office, and some athletic areas. You'll need to disinfect additional surfaces after a bodily fluid incident or during an infectious disease outbreak. California child care licensing regulations specify when and where you must clean, sanitize, or disinfect. Here is a table DPR developed to show the areas in a child care center where it is required to clean, sanitize, or disinfect according to licensing regulations. Some areas are not specified, so if there's no requirement, we've included the Caring for Children CFOC National Health and Safety Performance Standards. The CFOC standards are not enforceable and sometimes exceed California state licensing regulations. Child care facility sanitation requirements are room and process specific. The most detailed requirements are in infant care settings. Both the process and the frequency of use are specified. A copy of this cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting frequency table is available on our website. When you use a sanitizer or disinfectant product, it's important to take the time to read the label thoroughly, even if you've used the product before. The directions may have changed. Let's talk about where you can find important information on a pesticide label. Every pesticide product registered by US EPA in California must have the following information: an ingredient statement, signal word, precautionary statements, first aid statement, directions for use, keep out of reach of children warning, storage and disposal statement, and EPA registration number. Let's talk about what each of these sections tells us. The ingredient statement is where you can find information on what is in the product. The active ingredient is the part of the product that kills or inhibits the pest. The label must list the active ingredient, either the chemical or common name, and give the percentage by weight. The inert or other ingredients make up the rest of the product. The other ingredients can include solvents, emulsifiers, wetting agents, and diluting substances. They do not need to be specified, but their percentage must be listed. Pesticide labels use one of 3 human hazard signal words: caution, warning, or danger, to show the product's potential for making you sick if it isn't used correctly. The US EPA uses toxicity, eye irritation, and skin irritation test results to put pesticides in these toxicity categories. Caution is the least toxic category. Warning is more toxic than caution, and danger usually means a product is poisonous or corrosive and should be used with extreme care. Some pesticide labels don't have a signal word. These pesticides are less likely to harm you, but you should still handle them carefully. Whatever the signal word, always follow the label instructions to keep yourself and others safe. Any pesticide can be dangerous if not used correctly according to the label. Which signal word indicates the highest toxicity level: caution, warning, or danger? The signal word danger indicates the highest toxicity level. The precautionary statements on a pesticide label will tell you the potential health hazards from exposure to the product and how you can use the product safely. It will tell you about any special precautions you need to take, as well as any extra protections needed for children or pets. For example, you may need to use protective equipment like goggles or gloves when preparing or using the product. If the label states that protective equipment is required, it is because the product can hurt you if it gets on your skin, in your eyes, or in your lungs. This protective equipment is required by law and is meant to protect you from adverse health effects. Let's talk about a real case study involving a school employee not using the required personal protective equipment. A school food service manager dropped a dishwasher sanitizer bottle and splashed sanitizer in her eyes. She was not wearing the required PPE as directed on the label. She had burning eyes, eye pressure, and blurred vision that persisted for 2 months. The first aid statement tells you what steps to take if you get the pesticide product on or in your body. If swallowing or inhaling the product or getting it in your eyes or on your skin could be harmful, the label would give you first aid instructions. The instructions are not a substitute for medical advice or treatment. Always call a doctor or a poison control center for advice if you think pesticides made someone sick. When you call, try to have the pesticide container with you. The directions for use section tells you how to use the pesticide. You should make sure the pest you are trying to control is listed. This is your assurance that you are not wasting time and money on something that won't work. This section also tells you how much to use, where it can be applied, and how to apply it. Always read and follow label directions. Be sure the pesticide is the right one for your pest problem. Then use only the amount needed and no more. If you use a concentrated product, the directions will tell you how to prepare and dilute your antimicrobial pesticide before using it. Many people are injured every year from splashing or spilling sanitizers and disinfectants during the preparation of dilutions. Consult the label for instructions before you begin. We'll go into more details about how to properly prepare dilutions next. First, check for adequate ventilation in an area away from children. You must always prepare and use sanitizers and disinfectants in well-ventilated areas and make sure kids are not nearby. Even if you've used the product before, read the label. Label instructions sometimes change, and products with different concentrations can look very similar. Read the first aid and accidental spill instructions on the label. You're sure you are wearing the appropriate protective equipment like goggles and gloves if directed on the label. If the product is a concentrate, select the proper dilution rate for your use. The label will tell you how much to use for sanitizing or for disinfecting. Always use proper measuring tools and don't eyeball it. It's easy to add too much or too little that way. Adding too little can make the product ineffective and not kill the germs you want to kill. Adding more than is directed on the label does not make the product more effective. It unnecessarily increases pesticide exposure and the risk of injury. Prepare only what you need to use in the short term. Some sanitizers and disinfectants lose their effectiveness and require new preparation after a certain amount of time. Check the label for dilution expirations. When you make your dilutions, reduce the risk of spills and splashing by using a cup and funnel for transferring the liquid from the bulk container. And always pour the concentrate into water instead of the other way around. If you add water to a concentrate, the product could splash back at you. Be prepared in case it does spill and have absorbent material, garbage bags, and chemical-resistant gloves on hand. Have the telephone number for the Poison Control Center available in case you have additional questions. A lower risk option to dilute concentrates is to use a dispensing system, also called a dilution station. The dispensing system automatically dilutes the concentrate. Multiple chemical mixing dispenser options are available through custodial suppliers. These dispensers eliminate the need for measuring and contain the concentrated product, so there is a much lower risk of exposure to the concentrate. Let's talk about a real case study involving unsafe diluting. A custodian was splashed in his right eye while preparing a disinfectant solution. He didn't wear the required protective equipment, nor did he follow procedures on filling a bucket with water first before pouring in the powder. His eye was painful and swollen, and he had blurred vision. He missed 2 days of work. A container that holds diluted antimicrobial pesticide is called a secondary container. The US EPA recommends that secondary containers be properly labeled. Unlabeled containers may lead to accidents since people don't know to be careful with the contents. The secondary container label should have the product name, the EPA registration number, the active ingredient name, the signal word, caution, warning, or danger, precautionary statements, and any hazard pictograms present on the label. You can find this information on the product label. Here's an example for a secondary container holding a dilution. The product label has the signal word danger, so it is added to the secondary container label as well. The precautionary statements are corrosive and harmful if swallowed. The pictogram is a sign for a corrosive material. If the label states that a fresh solution must be made daily, add the date and time it was made. That way you will know when it has lost its effectiveness. Never put any pesticide into a food or drink container for any reason. Children or other people can mistake the pesticide as something to eat or drink and be poisoned. Let's talk about a case study involving a pesticide in a drink container. A custodian filled a beverage container with a sanitizer. She labeled it and placed it in the bottom of her work cart. Months later, she reached for iced tea on her cart but grabbed the sanitizer-filled bottle instead. She drank from it and developed mouth and throat irritation and difficulty breathing. Something else that can be dangerous is mixing cleaning and antimicrobial pesticide products. For instance, sodium hypochlorite, the active ingredient in chlorine bleach, reacts with ammonia, drain cleaners, and acids such as vinegar to create toxic gases. These gases can cause serious injuries like skin burning and blistering, severe breathing difficulties, and fluid in the lungs. At very high concentrations, the gases can be lethal. Let's talk about a real case study involving a toxic mixture. A school cafeteria worker mistakenly added a delimer to a sink with bleach. She and a coworker inhaled the resulting fumes and became ill. Both workers sought medical attention, suffering headache, nausea, throat and chest tightness, abdominal and chest pain, and shortness of breath. Never mix cleaning and antimicrobial pesticide products. Let's see what you remember about the safest way to dilute a concentrated pesticide product. Arrange these 4 steps of proper diluting in the correct order. Here is the correct order. Make sure area is well ventilated and away from children. Carefully read the pesticide label. Select the proper dilution rate. And use measuring tools and pour the concentrate slowly into water. Remember, these are just a few parts of proper diluting. Let's talk about what else you can find in the directions for use section on a disinfectant or sanitizer label. The directions for use will tell you what steps you need to take in order for it to be effective, such as how much to use, whether you need to pre-clean, and the amount of time to keep the product wet on the surface. It's a good idea to clean a surface before sanitizing or disinfecting. Some sanitizers and disinfectants actually require a pre-cleaning step before use. Consult the label to see if this step is required. For these sanitizers or disinfectants to be effective, all dirt and grease must first be removed from the surface. Excess dirt can make some sanitizers and disinfectants less effective. The directions for use will also tell you the contact time required to kill the microorganisms listed on the label. Following the correct contact time on the product label is crucial for effective sanitizing and disinfecting. Contact time is the amount of time that the sanitizer or disinfectant must stay on the surface to kill the germs. Some product labels will say "let stand for," "leave for," or "must remain wet for," rather than the words "contact time." Be sure to follow those directions carefully because the contact time can vary depending on the product, the process, sanitizing or disinfecting, the use dilution if it requires diluting, and the particular microorganism you want to kill. If you don't follow the contact time, the product will not be effective. For instance, if you don't use enough disinfectant wipes to keep the surface wet for the entire contact time, you may end up just spreading the germs around the surface instead of killing them. You also risk leaving behind just enough pesticide residue to make the remaining germs more resistant to the product. Depending on the product, you might need to let it air dry after application, wipe it off, or rinse it off before touching the surface after application. Check the label for these post-application directions. If you don't wipe or rinse when the label requires it, you could leave behind product residue that is hazardous when it comes into contact with skin. Some antimicrobial pesticides can be used on food contact surfaces, but they may require a water rinse after application to make sure there's no risk of the pesticide residue being ingested. Sanitizers and disinfectants are pesticides, and it is not appropriate to store them where children could access them. All EPA and California registered pesticides are required to have the child hazard warning "keep out of reach of children." Never allow a child to use a pesticide product, including disinfectant wipes. Let's talk about a case study involving a child using disinfecting wipes to clean his desk at school. An elementary school teacher handed out disinfectant wipes for her third grade students to use to wipe down their desks at the end of the day. According to a student's mother, her child developed severe skin irritation on his hands after using the wipes, with red, cracked hands and bleeding. Never allow a child to use a pesticide product, including disinfectant wipes. Some of the ingredients in disinfecting wipes can be irritating to the skin and harmful when inhaled, especially for children since their bodies are more vulnerable to health problems from pesticide exposure. Only allow children to clean with soap and water or a mild detergent. Every EPA-registered pesticide label is required to have a "keep out of reach of children" warning. This is the law. Keep all pesticides out of the reach of children. If disinfectants and sanitizers are stored in an area accessible to children, there could be dangerous consequences. Every pesticide label must have a storage and disposal statement that tells you how to store and dispose of leftover pesticide in empty containers correctly. Make sure to read and follow the storage and disposal directions on product labels carefully. Sanitizers and disinfectants are usually stored with other cleaning products. This can pose serious safety risks because, as we mentioned, some sanitizers and disinfectants have ingredients that are very reactive with other chemicals. Be careful what other products are stored nearby. Let's talk about a case study involving improper pesticide container storage. A 21-month-old child inhaled fumes from an empty pitcher that had contained an antimicrobial pesticide used to disinfect toys at a daycare center. According to the teacher, the child vomited once and was coughing and gasping for air. Children can be injured by exposure to even empty pesticide containers. Keep all pesticide containers, even empty ones, out of the reach of children. Here are some general recommendations for the safe storage of sanitizers and disinfectants. Store disinfectants and sanitizers in a secure location out of the reach of children, like a locked cabinet or closet. Make sure your storage area is well ventilated and stays cool. Some disinfectants are not shelf stable if stored in a hot area and will lose their effectiveness. Keep containers tightly closed when not in use. People have been injured when a loose lid or cap pops off unexpectedly. Some sanitizers and disinfectants are corrosive and can cause severe eye damage if splashed into your eye. Store sanitizers and disinfectants on shelves below eye level. Store sanitizers and disinfectants in their original containers. Remember, the label has a lot of critical information, so keeping the product in the original container gives you access to that information. Let's talk about another case study involving improper pesticide storage. A school custodian was organizing a janitorial closet. He reached for a bottle of disinfectant on the top shelf, which turned out to be open. It slipped from his hands and splashed onto his shirt and arm. He received a chemical burn from this accidental pesticide exposure. As we mentioned earlier in this training, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency registration number tells you that the product is a pesticide. When you see an EPA registration number on a product sold in California, it lets you know that the U.S. EPA and DPR have reviewed the product and found it to be safe and effective if you follow the directions on the label properly. Don't use any product for disinfecting or sanitizing that doesn't have an EPA registration number. It could be just a cleaning product or even an illegal pesticide product. All sanitizers and disinfectants may pose a risk to your health from repeated improper exposure, especially if the label instructions are not followed carefully. There are some active ingredients that are less likely to have harmful health effects when used in the long term. The U.S. EPA's Design for the Environment program identifies specific active ingredients that are least hazardous and unlikely to cause long-term health problems while still being effective. These ingredients are citric acid, hydrogen peroxide, lactic acid, ethanol, isopropanol, peroxyacetic acid, and sodium bisulfate. If you see the Design for the Environment (DFE) logo, EPA has determined that the product is in the least hazardous acute toxicity classes, is unlikely to have carcinogenic or endocrine disruptor properties, is unlikely to cause developmental, reproductive, mutagenic, or neurotoxicity issues, does not require the use of personal protective equipment, has no unresolved or unreasonable adverse effects reported, and has no unresolved efficacy failures. You can tell a product meets the Design for the Environment standards by looking for the DFE logo. Remember, any pesticide has the potential to cause harm to people or the environment. This is particularly true if the label instructions are not followed precisely. Always follow the instructions on the label. The label is the law. Some materials have natural antimicrobial properties, such as copper in its alloys and silver. There are EPA and California registered products made of these materials that are effective against microorganisms. With regular cleaning and maintenance according to the label directions, surfaces made of these materials retain their germ resistance without the need for chemical pesticides. Before we talk more in depth about the Healthy Schools Act requirements, let's summarize what you've learned about the best practices for using antimicrobial products safely and effectively. Follow the label directions carefully to make sure the product is safe and effective. Carefully consult the label when choosing an antimicrobial product to make sure it is the best choice for your needs. Reduce your exposure by only using disinfectants and sanitizers when and where you need to. Use any required personal protective equipment. Store antimicrobial pesticides safely and out of the reach of children. Never allow children to use pesticides, including disinfectant wipes. Now let's talk about how the use of antimicrobial pesticides fits into the Healthy Schools Act. The Healthy Schools Act is a right-to-know California law enacted in 2000 that requires information be provided to staff and parents when pesticides are used at school sites. The goal of the Healthy Schools Act is to create and maintain a healthy learning environment where children grow and learn. It encourages the adoption and practice of integrated pest management, or IPM. IPM is a strategy that focuses on the long-term prevention of pests or their damage through a combination of techniques, including prevention, inspection, identification, monitoring, and the utilization of least hazardous methods to control pests. There are certain requirements that must be met in order to comply with the Healthy Schools Act. Sanitizers and disinfectants are exempt from most of the requirements, except the annual training we're taking now, since they are needed for health and safety reasons. Other exempt pesticides are those that have a reduced exposure risk, such as self-contained baits and traps or gels and paste used in cracks and crevices. Products exempt from EPA registration because of their low toxicity are also exempt from most of the Healthy Schools Act requirements, except for the annual training. Since you may also be using other pesticides in your facility, let's go over all the Healthy Schools Act requirements now. School districts and child care centers are required to designate a staff member to serve as the IPM coordinator to ensure that the requirements of the Healthy Schools Act are met. The designated school IPM coordinator will lead by example and educate fellow staff on how they too can promote a healthy environment for children to learn and grow. Each school district or child care center must develop an annual IPM plan, post that plan on the school website, and make it available in the front office. Exempt pesticides, such as antimicrobials, are not required to be on this plan. The IPM coordinator must ensure that this IPM plan is updated and posted or distributed annually. All non-exempt pesticides intended to be applied by either an employee or a contracted pest control business should be included in the plan. If the school site doesn't have a website, they must send out a copy of the IPM plan to parents, guardians, and staff, along with the annual pesticide notification list. Additionally, the school site must maintain a copy in their front office. DPR has developed an IPM plan template that can be found on the DPR website. School sites must ensure that parents, guardians, and staff are provided with an annual notification of the non-exempt pesticide products that the district or the contractor intend to use. This notification can either be posted on the school site website or distributed as written copies. Parents, guardians, and staff must be given the opportunity to be individually notified before each non-exempt pesticide application. Those who signed up to be notified in advance of non-exempt pesticide applications must be notified 72 hours before each application. Additionally, warning signs must be posted 24 hours before a non-exempt pesticide is applied and remain for 72 hours after the application is completed. The sign should be posted around the pesticide treatment area, not just at the entrance to the school site. If a non-exempt pesticide not included in the annual notification must be used, written notification must be given to all parents, guardians, and staff 72 hours in advance. Records of each non-exempt pesticide application must be kept at the school site for 4 years. These records need to be available upon request. You can find templates of these forms on the DPR School IPM website. All non-exempt pesticide applications made by school site staff must be submitted to DPR. Reports must be submitted no later than January 30th for the previous year's applications. School sites are responsible for reporting pesticides used by their staff, including teachers, cafeteria workers, landscape workers, and any other staff who apply non-exempt pesticides. School sites do not have to submit reports for pesticides applied by outside pest management contractors. Pest management contractors are responsible for submitting their own reports. However, it is the school site's responsibility to make sure outside contractors are aware that the property is a school site and falls under the requirements of the Healthy Schools Act. This is true for exempt pesticide applications as well, for instance if you have an outside contractor for custodial services. Here is a copy of the Pesticide Use Reporting Form DPR HSA 118. This form is only used to report pesticides made by school and childcare employees. It should not be confused with Form DPR/ENF 117, which looks similar but is only used by pest management contractors. This form is available on the DPR School IPM website. If you contract for pest management, your licensed pest management professional, or PMP, must also report pesticide use data yearly to DPR no later than January 30th for the previous calendar year's pesticide applications. Reports should include all non-exempt pesticides used at the school site. PMPs must give advance notification of non-exempt pesticide use at least 3 days prior to application at schools and 5 days prior to application at child care centers. Notifications must include product name, manufacturer, US EPA registration number, active ingredient, area treated, date, and the reason for the application. This information is necessary for every application because school sites must keep records of all applications, including those made by PMPs, for 4 years. If you use or intend to use any pesticide on school grounds, you must take an annual Healthy Schools Act training course, such as the course you are taking now. The training must focus on school IPM and the safe use of pesticides in relation to the unique nature of schools and children's health. Check the DPR School IPM website for free training opportunities, which include online courses, in-person workshops, and DPR-approved outside courses that meet the training requirements of the Healthy Schools Act. Again, anyone at a school site who applies to pesticides, including sanitizers and disinfectants, must take a DPR-approved training course before making a pesticide application, and annually thereafter. Sanitizers and disinfectants are important tools in public health. They are used in schools and childcare centers to prevent the spread of germs that cause disease, but they need to be used carefully. We hope this course has given you a better understanding of the importance of using sanitizers and disinfectants correctly in your school or childcare center in order to reduce the risk of pesticide illnesses and injuries for you and the children in your care. For information on integrated pest management practices for other pests, such as insects, weeds, and rodents, please check out the other free courses available on DPR's School and Childcare IPM website. If you have any questions about the Healthy Schools Act or integrated pest management at school sites, feel free to email the DPR School and Childcare IPM program. We're here to help. You have now completed the DPR Integrated Germ Management course. You may now continue to the final exam.
Okay, folks. I know that was a long video. Hopefully you're still with us. Never knew someone could talk as fast as those advertisement disclaimers for 30 minutes, but I'm sure that gal is probably tired. Couple things. Many of you submitted questions through the Google chat that we did not answer, and we are combining. The reason we did not answer those is we didn't know the answer. So we've written those down. We're going to form an answer sheet, and we'll make sure people get those appropriately. Also, I will send off this slideshow as soon as we're finished to make sure everyone gets a copy. This is being recorded, so if you know someone that just couldn't attend today and they just are dying to see this video, it'll be available at a later time. Let's see. Please use what you learned in the Google Educator training to move toward a paperless classroom. If you determine your students need a small packet, maybe say PE or art lessons to begin with, include it during that conference. So there's a lot to do before conference time, and make sure that the parent understands that we're moving toward that paperless classroom, especially during distance learning. I know it's new to a lot of people. We've been trying to move that direction for years, and now we're kind of getting forced to move that direction. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Amy McCoy for just a couple of comments toward the end here about that video. And last thing, there's only, I've just looked at my computer, 75 people have completed that form and signed in so you can get paid for today. There was over 100 people attending the presentation. So make sure you do that at some point throughout the day. And if not, we'll remind you tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be the same thing, even though we won't see you. I will send out another link to your email. I don't think I put a date on today, so I might have to try that tomorrow. Put a date on the attendance so that when you log in, we separate the 27th through the 28th, but do the same thing again tomorrow. So I'm going to turn it over to Amy, and when Amy is finished, you can go ahead and end this conference and follow directions supplied by your principal. Amy?
Hi, thank you, Kevin. Okay, quickly, I'm going to leave a sign-in sheet for the video you just watched at your offices. So when you come in for your conference days, if you could go in there and just sign that form, just stating that you did view the video. I have to send that to the Department of Pesticide. Also, on the disinfectant that we're providing you, we have a safety data sheet on that. So I'm just going to ask that that's the only disinfectant that you use to clean your classrooms. Please don't bring anything from home, the Clorox wipes or anything like that. Please just use the disinfectant we provide. Also, I wanted to let everyone know we are providing hand sanitizer in each classroom and office. We do also have the safety data sheet on that as well. So if you could just only use that product that we provide you and not bring any from home, that would be helpful. And then when you have your disinfectant bottles in your classroom, if you start getting low or need to refill, you can shoot me an email and give us a call at the MOT office or reach out to your lead custodian to have that bottle refilled for you. Okay. And that's all I have. Hope you guys have a great day.
Thanks, Amy. You guys do what you need to do, meet with your colleagues, and we're all available if you have questions. Site administrators, thank you for providing information to your teachers about when you're going to meet. Have a good day.